Hi and welcome back to Peaky Boardgamer. My name is Rakos and today I will explain the game Resist. Resist was recently produced by Salt and Pepper Games and it's a solo exclusive game that finishes in about half an hour. Let's start. In the game, the player is leading a resistance team of Maquis against the army of Franco. Maquis cards have two identities, hidden or revealed. Revealed Maquis powers are significantly stronger, but the player will lose the Maquis card at the end of the round. By keeping the Maquis identity hidden, the player will keep the card to be reused in a future round. Using their Maquis, players can reveal enemies attached to missions or even destroy them. On every round, one of the missions is chosen by the player to be attacked. Using strength from the played Maquis cards, the player can defeat the mission and/or enemies that defend it. The goal of the player is to use Maquis cards wisely in order to resist for as much as possible before becoming defeated. Start separating the small cards to civilian cards and enemy cards. Shuffle each stack and create a supply at one side of the table, leaving space for these cards. The big cards are separated to missions and Maquis cards. We leave mission cards at one side for now and we start with Maquis cards. In the deck there are 24 normal Maquis and also 6 spy cards. You need to separate these and leave them at one side. Then take the 24 normal Maquis and shuffle them. Then the player draws sets of 2 cards from this deck, reveals them and then needs to choose which Maquis will be used and which not. The player places to the left the Maquis card that will be used and to the right the one that will not be used. Then continues with the next set of 2 cards, chooses one of them to keep, one of them to lose, and this continues until all of the cards are used. Then you shuffle all the cards that the player chose not to use and you place the stack to the right side of the playing area as the recruit deck. Next to this deck you leave a space for cards to form the revealed pile. From the supply of spies, take 3 cards and add them to the Maquis that were chosen to be used. Shuffle these cards and place them to the left side of the playing area as the hidden deck. Beneath this deck you need to leave space for hidden discards. Then take the mission cards and separate them to 3 different stacks according to the card's era. You can see that from that illustration. Then shuffle each stack and randomly remove 4 cards from the first era, 3 cards from the second and 3 cards from the third. These cards are placed back in the box. Then you take the cards from the second era and place them on top of the ones of the third era. This stack is placed at one side of the table. Then with the first era cards, you place them face up in the middle of the playing area, one next to the other. These are the first initial missions. Each mission has a victory point award for when it's defeated, the defense of the mission card, and also a number of soldiers to defend it. In this case, it's 3, so you need to place 3 enemy cards right above, creating 2 columns. As a last step, the player draws 5 cards from the hidden card deck to be their starting hand. After that, the game is ready to start. On every round, the player uses a new hand of 5 cards with which they will hopefully defeat one of the missions. Any spy cards that are drawn are useless cards, and if the player ever draws a full hand of 5 spy cards, they instantly lose the game. Maquis cards have a hidden side and a revealed side. Each side has a specific special power as well as contributes a specific amount of strength. Now to the left side there is a virtual area for Maquis cards that are used for their hidden side, and to the right side we have an area for Maquis cards that will be used for their revealed side. But players do not simply play the cards like that. There is a plan phase and an attack phase. This here is the symbol of the plan phase and this the symbol of the attack phase. So in the plan phase, the player can play Maquis cards for powers with this symbol. So if I play this Maquis card in the plan phase, I would have to use the revealed side of this card and thus place it to the right area. Now I can perform the power described on the card, which in this case is to flip all enemy cards in one of the missions facing upwards. Since Adolfo was used for the revealed side, the power it contributes is 3. After the player finishes playing cards for the plan phase, the player must now select one of the missions to attack this round. Let's say the player selects this mission. If there are any face-down enemy cards on the selected mission, these automatically flip facing upwards. This brings us to the attack phase. As a start, enemy cards or the mission having the defend keyword are triggered. We have 2 grunts here who have the defend keyword, and their power is that you must destroy them first if you want to destroy other enemy cards. A defeat keyword power on enemy cards or the mission will only be triggered if the mission or the enemy card is destroyed. A survive power will only be triggered if the enemy card survives the attack. After the mission is selected and defend powers are triggered, the round continues to the attack phase. Now the player continues playing Maquis cards for their attack power. So let's say this one played here and this one is played here. I cannot explain every single power of Maquis cards. However, these powers also involve taking more cards from the hidden deck or even a card from the recruit deck. The more Maquis cards to the player's hand, the more the chances of winning the mission. On any case, all Maquis cards on the player's hand must be played either for the hidden side or the revealed side. Player cannot keep Maquis cards for later rounds. Next, the player adds up the accumulated strength, which in this case is 7. However, some powers may modify this strength. For example, Abel gets +1 to his attack value for each revealed played Maquis card. So this makes the total to 9 points of strength. Now these points have to be used on destroying the mission and the enemies that defend it. The defense value of enemy cards is depicted in the top left corner. If I am to destroy any enemy card, I have to kill the 2 grunts first. Instead, I choose to go through to the mission and use 5 of my points to destroy it. The mission has a defeat keyword power that says that once it's defeated, you flip all enemies at one mission facing upwards, so let's choose this one. The ultimate goal on each round is to defeat the mission. I just won 1 victory point and I have 4 more points to spend on destroying enemies. My only option is to use my points to destroy the 2 grunts. The counter guerrilla has a survive keyword effect, which is now triggered. Draw a card from the civilian deck and place it face up in the graveyard. The enemy has just slaughtered 2 civilians. The jailer has a defeat effect, which would be triggered if the jailer was defeated. So it will not be triggered now, it's simply discarded. Discarded enemies move to the enemy discard pile. Then a new mission fills the gap and the required number of enemy cards are placed above. If there are not enough enemy cards, then reshuffle the discards to form a new stack from where you will continue dealing cards. If a player cannot manage to win the selected mission, then the card is flipped facing downwards. All attached enemy cards are also discarded after, of course, triggering any survive effects. This card is not replaced, the player simply has less mission options on each round. After the attack is resolved, the round continues with the aftermath phase. In the aftermath, the player first checks the cemetery and adds up the civilian losses. If 5 or more civilians are killed so far, then the player automatically loses the game. Next, the player checks if 2 missions are lost, because again, if so, the player loses the game. The player of our example has lost only 1 mission so far. If in the future that player loses another mission, then that player will lose during this step of aftermath. At this point, if the player has not lost already, the player must choose whether to finish the resistance now or risk playing another round. If the player ends the resistance, they simply add up the victory point values of all the missions that have been won. Then compares the total to this table to see how well they did. If the player loses the game before ending the resistance, then there is no scoring, the player simply loses. If the player wishes to continue the resistance, the round moves to the recover phase. In the recover phase, the player first cleans up the played Maquis. Maquis that have been used for their hidden side, along with any other spy card on the player's hand, will move to the hidden deck discard pile. Revealed Maquis, on the other hand, will move to the face-up revealed discard pile. Next, the player draws a new hand of 5 Maquis cards from the hidden deck. Of course, if the hidden deck is exhausted, then you reshuffle the hidden deck discards to form a new stack and then continue drawing. At this point, if the player draws 5 spy cards, the player loses. If not, the round is over and the next round begins with the plan phase. And that were the rules of Resist. If you liked that video and want to see more, please subscribe to my channel. Until next time, have fun and play more board games.